Everyone, please be seated. Minister, members of Cabinet, the Cabinet Secretary is with us, the Permanent Secretary, Office of the Prime Minister. We welcome all guests, members of the media. Good morning, everyone, listeners, viewers. As per usual, we will take opening remarks from Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, the Prime Minister, and then open the floor for questions. Please welcome Honorable Skerrit.
Good morning, everyone, and good morning to my colleagues here and senior public officers, and of course, the listening and viewing public. I want to thank you for your usual attendance and attention, and of course, the media for being present. I want to thank you for joining me once again as we reflect on the progress we continue to make in advancing our people's development and addressing the issues that matter most to them. First, I want to extend solidarity to the people of Kalibishi, who endured severe flooding just over a week ago following heavy rainfall. This latest incident serves as yet another stark reminder of the harsh realities of climate change and the increasingly unpredictable weather patterns that continue to place our communities at risk. As the residents of Kalibishi press on with cleanup, I want to take this moment to urge communities across Dominica to take proactive steps to enhance their safety and preparedness. The fight against climate change demands collective action and a community response. Get involved. Clean your gutters and drains. Remove debris from waterways. Cut overgrown vegetation that can obstruct the free flow of water. Together with your neighbors, organize community cleanups. Let us each do our part to reduce our vulnerability to these natural events. On Wednesday, I will visit the people of Kalibishi to discuss with them how government can work closely with them to minimize future impacts. This brings me to the upcoming hurricane season, which officially begins on Sunday, June 1. I want to use this press conference to speak directly to the Dominican people about our state of readiness and the steps we must all take to safeguard our lives, our homes, and our communities. We are too familiar with the power of nature. The experiences of Tropical Storm Erica, Hurricane Maria, and the many trough systems over the years have left lasting impressions, shaping our national policies and informing our ongoing efforts to build climate resilience. The government of Dominica, in collaboration with regional and international partners, has strengthened our emergency coordination systems, expanded shelter and emergency supply storage capacity, upgraded communication infrastructure, and reviewed response protocols across ministries and local authorities. 2 brand new emergency facilities, one in Jamit and the other in Portsmouth, are now operational thanks to our partnership, the government of the United States of America. Opened just last week, these facilities strengthen our national capacity to coordinate disaster response and store relief items closer to the communities that need them. Our hope is that we will not have need to use those facilities, but they're there in the event that we're impacted. We have also invested in retrofitting our shelters to ensure they meet standards for safety and dignity, and we continue to train emergency personnel and volunteers across the country. But as I cautioned before, readiness is not the responsibility of the government alone. Each of us has a role to play. And so, I urge all citizens to begin preparations in earnest. Review your family emergency plans. check your homes and businesses for vulnerabilities, and secure your roofs. Ensure that you have adequate food, water, and medical supplies should a storm disrupt access to basic services. I take this opportunity to remind all homeowners of the importance of keeping your home insurance policies current, especially as we enter the hurricane season. You may recall that in 2021, I announced an income tax deduction allowing individuals to claim up to $8,000 annually in premiums paid for homeowners insurance. This policy remains in effect, and I strongly encourage you to take full advantage of the benefit. Speak to your insurance provider, review your policy, and make the necessary arrangements now, not after a disaster strikes. As the season progresses, please stay informed. The Met Office and Office of Disaster Management will issue regular bulletins throughout. Take those warnings seriously. We know all too well that a single storm, a single rain event can bring devastating consequences. I want to speak especially to the elderly and the differently abled or those living alone. Make arrangements now with family, neighbors, or community groups to ensure you are not left behind in the event of an emergency. And I call on all Dominicans to look out for one another. Let us revive the spirit of solidarity that carried us through past crises. This week, in my capacity as head of the National Emergency Planning Organization, NEPO, I will meet with the chairpersons of the various committees to ensure that all sectors are aligned and ready to respond effectively during the hurricane season. I also want to address an issue of this notion that democracy is under siege in Dominica. In any vibrant democracy, differing opinions and robust debates are natural and necessary. We have that in Dominica. Our party believes that true progress is only possible in a society where every voice is heard, where freedom of expression, assembly, and movement are respected, and where the rights of all citizens, regardless of political affiliation, are protected. We have that in Dominica. Indeed, over the past 25 years, our government has worked diligently to strengthen democratic institutions, honor the Constitution, and uphold the rule of law. We have supported the independence and integrity of our judiciary, promoted accountability through various oversight bodies, and encouraged active civic participation. Our commitment to open dialogue and inclusivity has been demonstrated through community consultations, town hall meetings, and engagements with civil society and business organizations. Democracy is not the absence of disagreement, but the ability to manage differences respectfully and constructively. So, while some may seek to paint a picture that democracy is under siege in Dominica, we must look at the facts. And we must not be afraid to let the facts spoil our stories of lies, deception, and propaganda. We have an unblemished record of continued peaceful elections, vibrant political engagement, and a society where citizens freely express their democratic rights and freedoms. And yes, we have some outstanding examples of true democracy at work. Let's look at the trilogy of electoral reform laws passed in Parliament on March 19, 2025. It represents the most significant undertaking in the history of our independent nation to reform and modernize the electoral process for continuous improvement of free, fair, and credible elections as a backbone of our democracy. The development of these landmark election laws featured extensive national consultations and best practice guidance from international election management experts. This model of inclusivity, transparency, and accountability in the execution of policy for better democratic governance stands as a highlight of the stewardship of the Dominica Labour Party in the last 25 years. I thank the members of Parliament, especially members of the opposition, for the unanimous support of the new Registration of Electors Act, which provides for voter ID cards and cleaning of the voters' list, the two requests most hotly debated and in the highest demand on the electoral reform agenda. I also thank the United Workers' Party for its support of the House of Assembly Elections Act and the Electoral Commission Act. According to the UWP political leader, Dr. Thompson Fontaine, we have, and I quote, no issue, end of quote, with those two pieces of legislation. And I think that missed the media, and I think that missed the country. But it begs the question, if the Registration of Electors Act provides for voter ID cards and a clean, accurate voters list, and the UWP has, quote unquote, no issue with the House of Assembly Elections Act and the Electoral Commission Act, then what was the purpose of the March 19th protest action, which the police deemed an unlawful assembly? Political protest action is democracy, but law enforcement intervention to ensure that political protest action does not offend the rule of law is also democracy. The Labour Party remains in this Labour Party and in this government, we are prepared, as always, to embrace anyone and everyone who is prepared to put aside partisanship for the greater good of Dominica. There is a seat at the table for everyone who is prepared to work with this party, to overcome the challenges that we face and we're confronted with the global tailwinds that are taking place and the geopolitical shifts and the impact of climate change. This country is going to require the working and collaboration of everyone. But to do so, we must put country first. And so anyone who puts country first, irrespective of your station in life, irrespective of your circumstance, this party, this government is prepared to engage you in a sincere spirit of collaboration and working together. And I speak of this as the political leader of the Dominica Labour Party. I want to take a moment to reflect on our party's 70th anniversary, which we observed this past Saturday. On Sunday, we marked this important milestone with a service of thanksgiving in Grand Fond, a fitting location, as it was in Grand Fond that I was formally elected as political leader of the DLP in 2004. That moment remains deeply meaningful to me, and I am grateful to have returned to that community to celebrate the occasion of the 70th anniversary of the party with friends and stalwart supporters of Labour. Our gathering on Sunday was a moment of gratitude. We came together to acknowledge the hand of the Almighty in guiding our party over the decades, in strengthening our movement through trials and triumphs, and in keeping us focused on the values of service and compassion. I personally draw great aspiration from the teachings of the Apostle Paul, who emphasized the importance of both worship and thanksgiving in Christian life. Sunday's service, therefore, was an opportunity to gather in reverence and gratitude for how far we have come as a party, as a people, and as a country. Over the next week, we will continue to reflect on the journey of the party that has stood firmly with the people of Dominica for 7 decades, leading in moments of crisis, delivering in moments of need, and transforming lives through people-centered policies and bold leadership. The DLP was born out of the struggles and aspirations of the working people of Dominica, led by social activist Phyllis Shand-Olfrey and trade unionist E.C. Loblack, to whom we pay great and sincere homage. It was a movement that laid the foundations for modern education and healthcare, that invested in housing, agriculture, and the empowerment of ordinary Dominicans. This 70th anniversary is a celebration of that proud legacy. And so, on Sunday, we will gather in the community of Dubla for a major rally under the theme Labor at 70, rooted in peace, built on stability, and driven by progress. I invite all Dominicans, supporters, well-wishers, and even those still undecided, and those who have never supported this party, to join us. Come and hear from your leaders. Come and share in the vision of a party that continues to work every day to lift families, strengthen communities, and build a better, more prosperous Dominica. As leader of the Dominica Labour Party and as Prime Minister of this country, I assure you, we are not relenting in our efforts. We remain fully committed to completing the work we have started, delivering on our promises, and pushing forward with the transformation of Dominica. In fact, you have seen this commitment in action over the past week. We met with representatives of the United States government and reaffirmed our shared commitment to strengthening border controls and enhancing national security through collaboration and capacity building. We also saw the handover of 12 fishing boats to local fishers, valued at over $640,000, providing them with the tools they need to improve their livelihoods and contribute to food security and economic development. The Ministry of Housing launched the Homeowners Awareness Manual, a practical guide designed to empower citizens with the knowledge to retrofit their homes, especially their roofs, and improve the safety and resilience during natural disasters. And just recently, the Ministry of Housing met with representatives of the MMC and was assured that the new homes under construction will be completed in the coming weeks. The road infrastructure is being finalized and finishing touches are being applied. The Ministry of Housing shall hand over those homes during the summer of 2025. And I believe Scott said, well, it's now, I think. So I think Scott said we'll get the keys today or tomorrow. 21 homes in Scottsdale, lifting 21 families up. 21 families will be safer in their homes, in resilient homes. And I know I know all of them personally, but there are some who really touch the core of our hearts because of their circumstance. And these people will never be able to build a home on their own, never. And that's why we're so committed to ensuring that we provide these safe spaces for the people. And the Ministry of Agriculture signed contracts totaling over $5.5 million of direct investments in agriculture, which will benefit farmers and enhance our ability to feed ourselves and assure us of food security. And this is one of the direct actions that we're taking to mitigate against inflation by growing more of what we eat. This is why we're spending over $7 million in the abattoir to modernize it and to bring in new equipment. This is why we're spending another $7 million on a citrus certification facility to modernize it, to ensure that we can grow more what we eat and help cushion the impact on imported inflation on the citizens of Dominica. And so all of these actions reflect the ongoing work of your government. We are purposeful, focused on results, and committed to the people. I want to, before I end, I want to specifically recognize the Honorable Charles, the Member of Parliament for the Maricourt constituency, who is present here this morning. Thank you very much for your courtesy of listening to me.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for these comprehensive remarks. We could very well end here, but I will invite the members of the media to pose their questions to, I see Curtis and Carla in consultation. Are you guys ready? Okay.
Good morning, Prime Minister, and everyone here this morning. My first question is on the anniversary of the Dominica Labour Party's 70th anniversary. As you observe your 70th anniversary this year, has the time come for constitutional reform? And if so, what areas would a Dominica Labour Party administration pursue as you look at constitutional reform? I covered a march and an event of the Rastafarian community yesterday to do with Africa Day. And the question of reparations came up at that event yesterday. What is Dominica's position on reparation and the CARICOM position on reparation? And Prime Minister, my final question in this round has to do with Clear Harbor. So there has been developments about Clear Harbor in the last few weeks. Can you bring us up to date on how many people have been affected and what is government's position as we look at Clear Harbor? I will come back a little stronger in the second round, but I'll make way for Carlton Baptist in a little while.
Thank you. As you know, we have made let's say the government made a public statement that after we would have set aside electoral reform, the other big ticket item the country should pursue is constitutional reform. In a couple of years' time, we'll be 50 years. That's correct? 50 years as a country. And at every point in life, every milestone in which in life, you will have to do some introspection and reflections. The world has changed dramatically since 1978. There are issues which we are confronting now which were not present back then. And so life has evolved, and life is evolving. And it's our view that we should look at constitutional reform. Now, it is not for me as Prime Minister to preempt the engagement of the people by saying, well, this is the things, those some of the things that we want to change, et cetera, et cetera. I think it will have to be a conversation that we'll need to have as a country. What we're suggesting as a government is that there have been two reviewed proposed documents on constitutional reform. One by Justice Telford Georges, may his soul rest in peace. And I think there was a second one done by Dr. Nicholas Liverpool, also reviewing the Telford Georges report. So I think we have two documents that we can start with so that we can discuss those two documents, because some of the things that are captured in the Telford Georges report and this Dr. Nicholas Liverpool report, I believe, in my personal view, are still relevant today for consideration. But it's not for me to say, well, this is what should go, this is what should not go. I think it's for us to have town hall meetings and consultations across the country and let every single Dominican have the opportunity to share his views or his perspective on what he believes the Constitution should say and the new Constitution and so forth. So I'm hoping that we can start this process in earnest, and then we'll see where it takes us and so on. Mindful that in 2028 that we will have 50 years, and I think it's an important time for us to be able to be in a position to see where we are insofar as the Constitution is concerned and what changes need to be made. In respect to reparations, as you know, we have a National Reparations Committee that is chaired by Dr. Dublin, and has representatives from across the society. Likewise, there's also a CARICOM Reparations Committee, and both the national and the CARICOM committees have been engaging. You are aware, as all of us are, that there has been pushback from the former colonial masters in respect to their obligation to us as persons who have been impacted. But like other groups in the world who have been recognized for atrocities inflicted on them, I do not see why is it that there is a reason why black people and indigenous people are not given that same consideration. Now, the notion that the former colonial masters are saying, well, it is not me, it is my forebears, but you are the inheritors of the assets and the wealth. So give it up. If it's not you, then why are you benefiting from it today? Give it up. Let's auction it, and you give it back to the people who you took it from. So we can start with this position. So this is not. I don't think it is a confrontation we're having. I think it is if we're talking about injustice and the need for us to compensate people for the injustices meted out to them, I think reparation is an important one. So we certainly join the Rastafarian community in Dominica, and so their views reflect the CARICOM's position and also our national position. Okay, the issue of Clare Harbour, as you know, Clare Harbour has been a major employer in Dominica since 2004, and they have been really true partners in our quest towards the creation of sustainable jobs and opportunities for young people. Every so often, such entities go through a process. So they have clients, sometimes the clients is for a 3-year period or a 5-year period. And at the end of those periods, then there's some consideration. Sometimes they roll it over, as they have done many times. But you have a challenge now in the era of AI, and this is something that we in Dominica must start speaking about. So there are companies now who are moving now to an AI solution, which is a cheaper solution to them. And so that's one of the reasons why we have lost many clients. And the challenge we had in Dominica, why it is so impactful on us at the Clare Harbour, is that we sort of had gotten over the years preferential treatment by Clare Harbour by giving us the bigger clients. So you'll have one client employing 200 people or 100 people at one go. So if you have a client that's employing 200 people for you and they pull out, then you can understand the dramatic impact on this. So what is happening now with Clare Harbour is that they are in discussion with 2 potential clients. And we believe that if they're able to conclude, because so far they're saying to me it looks promising, but we have to wait for the conclusion. So, but if they're able to successfully conclude negotiations with these 2 clients, then the majority of people who were sent home would be re-engaged. And so we look forward to that, and we're providing Clare Harbour with all necessary support. I'm in direct contact with the president of Clare Harbour on these matters, and we are on standby to provide whatever support. If it means I have to travel to the United States to meet the potential clients, I've offered that to them. And so we're hoping that we can make some movements in this, and we'll look forward to that. So I think these are your questions.
Child news. Very soon it will be the end of the financial year in Dominica, and your finance minister will be delivering the 2025-2026 national budget. Have your cabinet started reviewing what is likely going to be part of the national budget? That's question number 1. Question number 2, there are many complaints from people who are of the view that, quote, upward mobility is a major issue presently with a number of retired persons given contracts to continue in the public service. Why is that so, and what do you intend to do to have persons who are retired move on so others can move up the ladder? And the other question is, the crisis in Haiti continues to be troubling. Can you give us an update as to the plans of CARICOM to assist Haiti as that country grapples to have peace, law, and order in that country? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Of course, we come to the end of the financial year. The Ministry of Finance and the Cabinet will engage in consultations with various entities as we've done over the years. We've already started receiving proposals from various private sector entities. As you know, we're in negotiations with the union, so there are some things that come out of those negotiations that will all be placed on the table for consideration, inclusion of the budget. But I will not want to preempt the Minister of Finance, and so I will not necessarily tell you some of the specifics in there. But just to say that we will continue on our mission to laying down some very crucial and transformational projects in the country. So we'll continue to provide the financing for those projects because we believe that the international airport, the marina, geothermal completion, some of the major infrastructural works, the cruise village that we're speaking to, a private investor who will come in with his own money to invest in this. Our continued support to construction of additional hotel rooms. Airbnb or private guest house rental is a major source of additional income for many Dominicans. So we'll be speaking to that in the budget and providing some support and guidance on this. So there are a number of important things. I think we continue to lay the foundation and the side walls for a more prosperous Dominica. A Dominica that will give our people greater hope, because the reality is, Carla, and even when people talk about opportunities, you're going to create more opportunities if you can increase your revenue generation. And to increase your revenue generation in Dominica, you're going to need to have more people coming into Dominica. You understand? And this is why we believe that the international airport, because when you look around us, the difference between us and the others is that they have an international airport. So they can go out with the ability to negotiate with airlines to come in from Europe and come in from other parts and to provide the necessary support for these things. We have a limitation. Yes, we have direct flights from United States, but 777 cannot land at Douglas Charles. We have to wait for the airport. And so we're going to need to have more people come in to consume what we're producing, consume more agricultural produce. All the boats that we're giving to the fishermen, we're going to catch more fish. We need to have people who can consume those fish. And the small business persons who are doing various confectionaries and so forth, the tour operators, the hotels, the guest houses, the Airbnbs, the small village shops. All of this, for them to do more business, you're going to have more people coming in. You understand? And so this is why we are focusing so heavily on those important projects. You look at Portsmouth or you look at Newtown, on any given day, there's a significant number of yachts out there. But we do not have the facilities to take advantage of the opportunities there in terms of the onshore support services that we can provide to those cruise ships. So we're not even scratching the surface of the benefits there. And so this is why we're keen on transforming the swamp. We get criticism for it, but transforming the swamp on the dam site in Portsmouth and eliminating the sandflies and so forth, and bringing development for the people. Because, but doing so with clear respect for the environment. Very, very careful with how we go about doing it and so on. So we're not indifferent to the environment. There's no prime minister that has spoken about the environment and cleanliness and beautification more than myself, and I do so in practice, not only in words. You understand? So we understand those things. So these are the kind of things that we're going to be doing, and we continue to do that are important, and I'm hoping that the Minister of Finance will articulate some of those things and others in his budget statement. Okay. The issue of upward mobility and people who are brought back on contracts, I agree with that. What I have suggested, and we're doing some of that, is that if you need a skill of somebody who has retired, then you should not place the person on an established position, so that you allow for, except in a special circumstance. If you're if you have a particular position and there's only one position you have which is not affecting any upward mobility, it's fine. But where it's going to affect people who've been waiting, because if you have somebody who's going to be filling a position, you have several people acting, it creates a problem. So, and in the public service management bill, you also be addressing those issues. Even on secondment, people write to the cabinet and say, I got a job in the private sector, I get a job overseas, and you want them to benefit from this, and you allow them to be seconded outside of the public service. But when a person is seconded outside the public service, that position remains filled. And so you may have somebody acting for 3, 4, 5 years or the person on secondment. This is why we have started to curtail the number of years that someone can be seconded outside of his established position. Because it's not fair to persons who are waiting. And you have also people on study leave. Somebody gets study leave for 4 years, 3 years. But that person is an appointed public officer, established. And so there are different considerations, not only people on contracts, but it's also people who are on secondment and people who want study leave. And the people who ask for special leave. People who get the green card, I believe, and they want to see how America going, and so they don't want to retire or resign one time, so they go able to see how things turn in for them, and they go and they spend a year and they take leave without pay. And so those things that we're trying to ensure that we can, while we do not want to cut them off completely, you understand what I'm saying? Because we have to be practical and pragmatic in all what we do. But we're also mindful that it's creating a problem. So this is why I always make a joke that when you retire, and then all your staff members come and they have cake and they have champagne and so on, they're not happy. They're not happy that you retire. They're happy that your position comes vacant because they've been waiting for that. And somebody waiting in the slips for 2, 3 years because they're counting how much time you have. And once you get to your retirement time, before you get to 60 years, they write you one time. And so I understand the unnerving situation that many people are placed with. So, but we're trying to find a way, both legally and by policy, on how we can overcome those challenges. Okay, and the issue of Haiti is a serious problem that we continue to work, continue to help. As I said yesterday at the church service, we can't have Haiti fatigue. We have a duty and obligation to Haiti. But if I were to express one personal point on Haiti, I had suggested, and there are many who supported that position, but it doesn't carry through, that we should have had a conversation with the gangs in Haiti. We should have had a conversation in Haiti. The gangs in Haiti are too crucial a player for you to not engage them. And if you do not engage people, then you leave them to their own devices. Sanctions are not going to change the attitude of any gang leader or gang member in Haiti. You understand what I'm saying? I believe, and I went ahead, because I was chairman of CARICOM then, I went ahead and I spoke to Norway, because Norway had played a very crucial role in facilitating discussions and negotiations between the government of Colombia and FAC. Now, FAC was a terrorist group, and you have now people who are part of FAC in Parliament, in Congress, in part of the government in Colombia. And so I understand people do not want to engage gangs and so on, but they're part of the society. We do not hate them, we hate their behavior and their actions. And how do we get them to curtail or to change their behavior and actions? And to leave these guys to their own devices and send in drones to try to kill them and so on, all you're going to have is get the situation worse. And the gangs are a crucial part of it. Now, I am not a Haitian, I'm not part of the Haitian government. I can only suggest, you understand what I'm saying? But if there's a problem in society, we have to talk. You have the president, the current president of Syria, he had a $10 million bounty in his head a few months ago. And a few weeks ago, he made the president of the United States. You understand what I'm saying? So let us understand, unless we have a discussion with the gangs in there. The gangs are you leave them to the devices, they become their own government in the ghettos, they provide to people that the state cannot provide because the state cannot come into the services. So what do you have? You have a de facto government. Law and order can be maintained. So, and I still believe it's not too late. We cannot set aside anybody in terms of finding a solution for peace. Because without peace in Haiti, without law and order in Haiti, there is no future for Haiti. And one of the crucial ways of bringing in this issue of the thing. Now, if after consultations with the guys, discussion with these guys, they want to behave, then you go after them. You eliminate them. Simple as that. But you give them opportunity to change their ways. You understand? And so this is my personal view on the Haitian situation. This is not a CARICOM position on the matter. So this is my personal view on the city, and I don't, I don't impose my views on people. I share my views, and so forth. But there was, and the Norwegian government was prepared to provide the resources and the framework for this and to facilitate the discuss. And I was prepared myself. I told them to go to Haiti and to be part of the conversations with the gangs. You understand what I'm saying? So, but this is where we are. Yeah.
Prime Minister, local government reform would have been discussed this month, May. Have you all made any progress on reform for local government system in Dominica?
Well, I will leave it to the Minister for Local Government to give you a more comprehensive response on this, but she's not there today. But I'll make an arrangement for that. And I mean, the process of local government reform is still on the agenda. I know there were some discussions. I know there were some consultations. I have not seen the report coming out of those consultations, so I cannot speak to any specifics in respect to the consultation which was held.
You've said that lighting for Windsor Park would begin or would be installed by September of this year. Is everything on course for that project at Windsor Park? Right. The other question is, any updates on the track and field facility for Point Round and the sports facility for High Street? And is there any update on the Arab House of Culture, which should have been open based on information, should have been open by now? Before I get into another question, have you considered a cabinet reshuffle in recent time?
So the issue of lights in the Windsor Park, as I said, contract was signed. I was hoping that there would have been a more public. I'm signing a significant contract, I guess, should have been done in somebody's private office. There should be greater transparency with this, but it's not too late to I think the Minister of Sports and the Minister of Sports is here. We should have some press briefing and to share with the country the various components of the lighting, the scheduling of the lighting. My clear mandate to the Ministry of Sports and the National Lottery is that I want the lights in place in September. You understand? So they have to do everything to get this going. Because absolutely the lights must be in place for the festival and for independence celebration. And there should be no excuse for that. We have to get it going. I believe an advance may have been paid to the supplier as per the contract. So it's a matter now to ship those components in there, and there's some local infrastructure work on the side which need to be done. I'm hoping that they can do these things. The problem I have, part of the problem I have in Dominica, because I'll share some of my concerns that I have as Prime Minister, maybe on Sunday, that there has to be a higher level of productivity and diligence in the country. This idea of people washing their tools at 3 o'clock and at 7 o'clock is still broad daylight. We have to change that. We have to change this. And every time there's a fete in Dominica, we don't see people until 3-4 days after the fete is over. And so, I mean, even in Clare Harbour, I've had to go to Clare Harbour many times to talk to the staff about the diligence. And now that we've lost it, it becomes a problem. You understand what I'm saying? So we have to be more diligent in the country. And we can't leave things for tomorrow. Because tomorrow has its own challenges, as the Bible tells us. So do what we have to do today. And then when tomorrow comes, we'll deal with tomorrow's challenges. But if we keep pushing things back for tomorrow, then tomorrow will become overwhelming. And so we have to be a little more diligent and professional in what we do in the country so that we can reap the benefits in a quicker time. So the Minister of Sports is there, and I'm sure he will take note of those points. The track and field, we're making progress. As you know, we acquired the land at a point wrong. This is the only site we could find, the type of soil. We're supposed to do some soil testing. That was done already. What's the next step? We're clearing this week. So they have sent a contract for the clearing. So you guys need to call the press and tell the press all these things, man, Oscar George, man. Come on, man. Just, and so that the people, you guys keep anything a secret, man. You sign a contract for 14 or 19 or some $1 million a secret. You do soil testing is a secret. You're going to clear the land next week is a secret. I mean, building a press conference on site in Point Trong, you can show them the exact location. If you invite me, I'll come. All right, so you'll have a press briefing next week on that, and on all of these wonderful things happening on sports, and all of the sports officers are going to be appointed. And so so there's a lot of things happening in this country there. Yeah, I'm telling you, you don't know that. I mean, Kalai people don't know that. I mean, if you don't know that, nobody knows the Kalai. The issue of High Street, we have to make some funds available, and we'll do so in the course of the next few days. It's an important facility that the Member of Parliament for Roseau Central was able to mobilize funds outside the government. So the government hasn't spent money on this project itself. These are funds coming from two sources that the Member of Parliament was able to receive, and she's done some work there. Part of the challenge we have is that they went ahead and they gave Public Works Corporation to do the surfacing of the court. This will just take asphalt and just pour anything as if all is. I mean, come on, man. You do not know that a tennis court has to be smooth. You do think who's on the patch in the roads in Dominica, and you get your big check after. Come on. So now this thing has to be ripped off and redone. And then they probably get blows for it, and nobody come and defend and speak the truth. One day I'm going to have a press conference to talk about the things I'm pissed off with Dominica. Because I am getting too much blows for things that I have put in place that are not being done in accordance to what I put in place and the resources that we put in place. And everybody's scared. And people have to be diligent on these things. And so I think one day I will entitle What's Skerrit Vexed About? If you study African history, Thomas Sankara, who was the military ruler of Burkina Faso, all of his engagements were done on live television. So he would speak to all public officers, all ministers, all ambassadors live on all issues. So maybe I've been telling him that for many years, even before Tuareg came into office. Maybe I should do that instead so people know. But we have to be a little more diligent on this. And so some funds were made available to the High Street staff, and so we can enhance the facilities there, and the folks can have access to this and exercise, and there are many other things that are going to be happening there. Our records of culture, obviously, they have all of the resources for this. I'm not sure what is happening in respect to putting these things in place. But again, the press conference next week, that they will give you a full briefing on these things. Okay? Cabinet reshuffle. Well, you just never know. Many things can happen. There's always a possibility. After a couple of years, you may have a change of focus or priorities as a government, and you will have to shift things around. So, yes, quite possibly there will be a cabinet reshuffle so that we can enhance our delivery of services to our people. Because as a government, you cannot be indifferent to the complaints of the public because you're doing work on their behalf. And as you know, I have my ears on the ground every single day. And so I am not unaware of the complaints of the people of Dominica. And I, as you know, I always responded on those issues. So certainly the government has to come to a point where it has to reassess its priorities and the resources that it has at its disposal and juxtapose them against what the people are saying. Because we're working on people's behalf, not on our behalf. You understand? And to work on people's behalf, you must know what they want and how they want it. And if you can't do it how you're supposed to do it, then you have to explain to them why. It may be a resource issue, it may be a technical issue, but we have to keep informing the public. And let the public know we have to take them along with us. We cannot be ahead of the public or behind them. They have to be side by side with us because we have to work together. And so it's something I take very, very seriously as Prime Minister and the leader of the Labour Party. And so you'll be informed when that's happening, but there'll be some changes to be made. Well, the short answer to this is yes, but as to the timing, I do not know. It's a thing I always have to give reflection to and clear thought to, because ultimately the buck stops with me. But certainly there'll be some changes made. Some may be dramatic, some may not. Yeah.
PM, let me first say, and I'll quote Che Guevara, who said that at the risk of seeming ridiculous, that a true revolutionary is guided by the great feelings of love. And you, to me, embodies, or you represent that saying. We look at Burkina Faso, and you mentioned that a while ago, and that the work done by the leader there, Ibrahim Traoré, and many are saying that the developmental projects that you have in Dominica shadows or looks similarly or similar to that happening in Burkina Faso. Do you think that there's need for diplomatic relations with OCS, between OCS or Dominica with Burkina Faso? And that's one. Second, you have led the charge, the clarion charge, to reduce NCDs in Dominica. Are you satisfied with the work that has been done by the Ministry of Health so far? And what strategies would you like to see as we move forward in reducing this number of NCDs, the pressures, the diabetes status, state data in Dominica? What do you think?
In respect to some of the, thank you. In respect to some of the projects and programs that I see people talking about taking place in Burkina Faso, whether it's in housing or support to farmers or addressing access to education, and I see some people glorifying it, but some people glorifying it, people criticize me for it here. You understand what I'm saying? Any government that has a people-centered approach to governance will always find itself implementing those programs. Housing to people, access to education, access to healthcare, irrespective of who you are. You understand? And ensuring that you can lift people from the ground up, that there's no glass ceiling. You understand? And ensuring that the resources of the state is shared among the people. And to ensure that it is done in an equitable manner as far as practically possible. And where there are gaps that you feel you move towards addressing those gaps and those deficiencies. This is what Labour Party has been about. And this is why, notwithstanding the criticism, that even within my own party sometimes, the people who believe that we should move away from those things. But you cannot move away from those things that have a direct impact on the way of life of the people. And if you go to a home, to a community, and you see a senior citizen or family living in a dilapidated condition, not because they're not nice to themselves. It's because they cannot afford it. And if they cannot afford it, what do? Do you tell them pray to God? Yes, they may be praying, and you might just be answered that God is sent to them. And if you fail, then what are you going to say to God when He comes to judge the living and the dead? So this is why I say we don't have a political responsibility to lifting people up. We have a biblical and Christian duty to do this. And so our commitment is not motivated by political consideration. It is motivated by a very sustained philosophy of the Labour Party. Because if you look at Labour Party all over our time, whether it's in Sean Alfrey time, E.O. Livler time, Patrick John time, Rose Douglas, Mike Douglas, and so on, we all of us espoused a program of social reform and social development, lifting people up, and we have done so in practical ways. So you would see Patrick John building homes in Bathurst and Canefield, helping farmers and Eolibla and lifting people up. So the only times that you have seen those things, because that's the founding principle of the Labour Party. And this is also etched in our minds, in our spirit, in our psyche, from a biblical standpoint in the book of Matthew. You understand? And so it's costly, very costly. And so any government who wants to balance the books, you can just cut those things off and you have a surplus, But a government is not in place only to balance its books. It must also help people balance their lives. And this is why we always say that we are responsive but responsible. So we don't take reckless decisions in the pursuit of helping people. You understand? Because if you take reckless decisions, then it's going to impact the system, and you cannot help the people in the way that you can help them. And so these programs are important. They help give people a decent way of life, and even the NEP that people criticize. I don't think people understand and appreciate the impact this has had on the poverty levels in Dominica, and the sense of dignity and pride, and the independence that you've given to so many women across Dominica in particular. The men too, but more so women are always the less of the vessel in terms of injustice. And so these things, you drive across the community, and the sense of pride that they take in keeping the communities clean, and be able to provide for their children, for themselves, for a sense of independence. Unfortunately, you do not have social scientists in Dominica who do research. But I challenge anybody to do some research on this and look at the impact on people's lives. And so while the NEP is a transition thing, it's been in transit. That when you move on, and several of them have moved on to get permanent employment, whether in the private sector, the public sector, and so forth. But there are some aspects of the NEP that will be needed until Thy kingdom come. You always need to keep the community clean. You always need to take care of those who cannot take care of themselves by providing caregivers to them. So these things will never go away by putting mentors in schools so that they can provide additional support to children who might be slow learners with their homework, with their research. These are the things that are impacting. And you have a small business owner who just started, and you want to give them some help so that they can, sustain their investment and start making a profit and graduate out of the program. You give them some support. And so these programs and projects have been carefully thought out. This is part of a strategy, because development is not all about infrastructure; it's about human aspect of development. So you can have all of the infrastructure, if people are not able to take advantage of it, then so no benefit. So you have to make sure that both can be attended to at the same time. You understand? And so what is happening in Burkina Faso and even some of the Caribbean countries, we applaud them because these are people-centered policies and programs. And in Dominica, we just have to be more positive and constructive and be more appreciative. NCDs is not only NCDs has to be, the fight against NCDs has to be a personal responsibility, a family responsibility, a community responsibility, a business community responsibility. It cannot be the Ministry of Health alone. And I think that, I'm not saying that to say that there are some things that we are not doing, that we should be doing. I believe that there needs to be more public education. The education must be more visible and more apparent, and because this is an existential threat to us. This issue of CNCDs is costing families, it's costing the society. If you have to do a check of the amount of sick leave people take and monetize that, it's a significant part of your GDP. Yeah? You understand? And that is one thing. But I think we have to encourage people to take care of themselves, and each of us must play a part in the public education. But because no matter what the government or the Ministry of Health may say or do, then you'll have a problem. And what we find ourselves doing the government, is that we spend more money on medication because we have to treat people, and we have to get more expensive medication because of the acuteness of the NCD on people. So all we're doing is spend the money, but I think that we can reverse that by pushing the wellness part and getting people to take care of themselves, exercise, eat right. So in my case personally, as you know, I always speak about this matter. Anywhere I speak about this in the Caribbean, anywhere I speak about this matter. And so I find myself becoming an activist. And I have taken this activism to another level, where I have banned the consumption of sugar or any added sugar except from fruits. I don't take this. And dairy products and stuff like this. So I don't take any sugar whatsoever. And this is why I'm looking so slim and trim. You understand? And they say younger too. I don't know, but so you understand. But I can walk from roads to vehicles and fine, easy. Huh? I'll call you when I come back. I suspect by the time you get to Master, if you don't, you can't lie. All right, but seriously, we have to. It has to be a national effort, to crack this thing down. And we are seeing more and more younger people having high blood pressure and diabetes. And if somebody at 10 and 12 and 13 getting diabetes and hypertension, it tells you what the person's life will be like. And the reality is many people are walking the streets in Dominica not knowing that they have it. And which is by the time you get to know it, they have a stroke. They're on a bed. You understand? And so, and those of us who are in the food business have to be mindful of our contribution to that. We just put in too much sugar in the juice. You know, too much sugar in the juice. And this thing of putting sugar in bakes and sugar in red beans and so on. You put your red beans to soak overnight, you pressure cook the thing. You pressure cook the beans and it gets soft. You quiver the beans. But you can't do quiver beans by putting sugar, brown sugar, anything. I mean, I understand this thing. I mean, and if you're making bakes, there's a difference between bakes and donuts. Donuts is sweet, bakes is also sweet. But you can't make bakes and a donut to give me myself, eating anything, I think that thing's sweet, man. And you have sugar in the bakes. So we have to watch those things. You understand? And we adding sugar in the coconut water that we're selling on the side of the road. And, I mean, why should we add sugar to coconut water? If you want the thing to be sweet, you get some mature ones and some young ones and you mix it. You know what I'm saying? So you get a little sugar there. So, you know. But you can't sit at your home, buy some brown sugar and you add some water from the Wasco. And you're selling this thing to people. Now, somebody who is diabetic, who feel like a bottle of coconut good for them, they tongue, they're hot and so on. They drink coconut water, they get a little natural sugar from it. Not realizing that their diabetes level elevated. And the person falling tongue, they're in a coma. You know what I'm saying? Because they drink that whole bottle of coconut water there. Half of it is sugar. And so these are some of the things. You know, I think we need to have greater conversation about these things because this is a major, major threat. You know, I have been sounding the alarm for the last 15 or so years, and it's getting worse. It's getting seriously worse. Okay, but thank you for the questions. Yes, anybody else? Sorry.
For Kyrie FM. My first question is, are there any updates or negotiations between Dominica and the United Kingdom on visa-free access? And two, would the government of Dominica ever consider a transport board system, something similar to the one in Barbados, where there are special rates for senior citizens and to assist with not just the general public, but essential workers as well, like, for example, nurses, security officers, where it passes at certain time frames?
The negotiations with the UK, we continue to have discussions. There are no specific updates on that matter, but it is something that remains a priority for us. So we continue to have discussions in the Mondays. The issue of the transport board, I mean, as I understand it, in Barbados, the government owns the buses and they employ people and so forth, but that they have had a history of that. You understand? So this is a legacy program in Barbados. Because here in Dominica you have so many of the small bus owners running the roads of Dominica, it might be a difficult thing for the government to come in to displace them. We, for example, even the transportation of school children. As you know, we had purchased some buses and so on. Eventually, as those buses got old, we set them aside, and now we're using most of the buses, maybe 99% of the buses, we're using privately owned buses, and so forth. So I'm not sure this is something that we would be prepared to look at, because it would have a negative impact on so many of the people who rely on this for their living. And if you were to bring in a rebate, it's going to be difficult to have a system for you where you can have a rebate, because most of the bus drivers can't give you a receipt. They won't be able to give a receipt or anything like that you can present and make a claim for a rebate and so forth. So while I understand the intention of your question, you understand, I think we have to look at the mechanics of achieving that intention and to see whether it's something that the country would want to consider. I'm just raising some immediate issues that become in the way or advancing that intention that you have. So this is where we are. Yeah. Yeah.
Trying to get some updates as it relates to the expected timeline for the release of the most recent census. Many stakeholders are eagerly awaiting this important data. Also, we're trying to find out also an update and plans for as the government in terms of addressing the African snail, which is posing a serious problem to farmers in Dominica. And when do we expect to have a confirmation of a police chief in Dominica? And my final one before I hand over to my good friend to my left, the issue of garbage continues to be a major problem. Yes, I understand that we receive some garbage trucks, but the rats are creating havoc and garbage all over the place, and rats and rats and rats. And leptospirosis is becoming a major issue. What? Yes. So can you please address us in that, please?
The census, I believe that there were issues there with the collection of data, and I believe that I'm looking to the Minister of Finance to guide me on this. I believe that there's some discussion as to how do you relaunch it being done. So I know the discussion to relaunch it because there were some issues in terms of the collection of data at the time. So that was suspended. So I think that they are looking at a new approach towards it, because the census is important. You understand? It's a very important piece of statistical data that's required, and to have the one that we have updated. But I believe that they will speak to that at some point in the details of this. Okay, the African snails, giant snails, is a challenge. I have seen them myself, and this is part of the trade. A challenge you have with trade, where people come in with boxes and containers, and if these containers are not properly treated and sanitized, then you bring these things to Dominica. So you have, for example, you have a different type of iguana in Dominica that destroy indigenous type iguana. They have the bigger ones now. You have lizards that you have never seen before. And those some of the things would have been brought also by the hurricanes. Then you have the African snails. Then you have the giant frogs that are creating problems. I know the Ministry of Agriculture is engaging in some kind of control mechanism on this. But the key is for us to ensure that at the ports and so on, that we enhance our surveillance of these containers and ensuring that we can have these things quarantined properly. And so sometimes you have a challenge where the merchants and citizens want their containers out as quickly as possible. You understand? But you also have the issue of a quarantine period. So I suspect we're not focusing enough on the quarantine period of some of these containers and some of these shipments. And so if you do not have a quarantine period, then you run the risk of these things coming into the country and impacting agriculture, impacting the way of life of the society. So this is why sometimes people make noise about one issue, not understanding that that creates another issue that can have its own implications and consequences for us and so on. So I believe that we need to focus on the quarantine aspect of it and ensuring that we pay particular attention to this. So you have those issues there. And so a lot of these things come in boxes and containers. You get the American cockroaches, the small ones, because they come in boxes that have not been treated and so on. And you understand what I'm saying? So you have different, all of these things are coming in. And so it's a challenge for us and for the farmers, and especially if you have vegetables, giant African snail and also the frogs and so on. Though in some parts they eat the frogs, you know. In some places they eat the frogs and giant African snail, you know. But it's a challenge and it's creating problems for farmers. Yeah. Confirmation of shore police, obviously at the appropriate time this will be done, and you'll be so informed and advised when it's done. So as you know, we have an acting chief of police and we have an acting deputy chief. I believe the assistant commissioner of police will be appointed soon, and there so will be put placed in so that at the appropriate time that those positions will be filled. Okay. And garbage collection again. Garbage collection is a societal responsibility. You know, if you leave your home with garbage and you just dump it on the side of the road, and you don't put it in proper garbage bags and it's not sealed properly, you know, of course the dogs will come. If you have stray dogs in the villages and the communities, and you put plastic bag with bones and everything in there, dogs will come, rats will come. So we have a responsibility as individuals to address those issues. We in the government, we in solid waste, we're looking at different strategies that can be employed, whether we bring back the big skips and the smaller skips and place them in strategic locations and ensure that they are emptied as quickly as possible. That's something we're looking at. We have purchased a couple of trucks. We get an additional 5 new trucks that have been donated to us by a benefactor. Those trucks are under manufacturing, and the next 90 days or so, we're hoping that they'll be in Dominica. So we buy new assets for solid waste. I believe that the country needs to discuss the issue of financing of solid waste. It can't be only what they collect from the customs, the port, that has to be financed. I mean, we moved from a situation where everybody except those in the city of Roseau and the town of Portsmouth were disposing of their garbage, to a situation now where the government is collecting garbage in every village in Dominica. And the majority of us are not playing our part in the process. And so we just dump it by the side of the road and waiting for the government to come. Now, if each of us were to place our garbage in our yards, and when the truck comes in, we put it, we don't have a problem on the streets, you know. But, and I understand why it's done. People go to work in the morning, they may not be there when the truck comes, so they take it and they put it at Dodan, or they put it at Salisbury, they put it at St. Joseph. And none of you from St. Joe or Mero, and you just dump it on the side of the road. And you dump it indiscriminately. And now people are dumping Picard there to the entrance of the Coconut Beach, the side of the road, just indiscriminately. I mean, come on, where's our sense? Where's our sense of pride and our sense of responsibility? So while I accept that the government has a certain responsibility, you understand, to enhance garbage collection and management, and I'm not running away from this. And we're putting systems in place with regards to buying additional assets and paying the service providers who we owe and all these things we're doing. But that alone will not going to solve the problem unless you have the community, unless you have the business community and everybody's citizen playing a part in anything. Now, all of us talk about garbage collection, but nobody's talking about financing. Nobody's saying, can I contribute something? And I can contribute $20 every month. Now, if each of us would contribute $20 every month, it helps. It will help. It will help, you know. And so we're also looking at decentralizing the collection. So with regards to the trucks we get in, should we not leave one in Grand Bay to do the south and so on? Should we not leave one in Lapland and do the southeast or Castle Bruce and so on, so that we don't have the trucks having to leave Roseau and go to Lapland and to collect. So the truck would leave Lapland and come to Roseau. So it saves you money and it also helps you better manage. And what is the role of local government authorities, village councils, in terms of garbage collection? Because we pay all the clerks, we pay local staff there. And so what's their role in garbage collection? So we have to redefine the whole strategy of garbage collection and management in Dominica, recognizing the fact that this thing has evolved in a dramatic way. You understand? I mean, when I grew up in Vickers, up until I became Prime Minister, government wasn't collecting garbage in Vickers. You understand what I'm saying? So we have no duty to place garbage outside our yard. When all of us have some backyard, we have to dig a hole in the backyard, and all the perishable items, you dump it there. But when I go, so many of us have land, and we can dig a hole, we can do a compost heap. You understand? So there's some individual practices, and now in Vickers, you realize Vickers is very clean. You know, my position to the residents in Vickers, look, the idea we should not, we have to lead by example always. We cannot just put garbage outside the road. We put garbage outside when we hear the truck coming. And if it's a false call, we put it back inside. I mean, keep the place clean. Yeah, you understand? And so that's why I try to preach where I'm from. And in large measure, it's been practiced, so you won't. And if I go in my constituency and I see garbage outside the road, people know I'm upset about that. And so, for me, cleanliness is crucial, and beautification is important. But we can't only rely on government to do it. We all have to do it ourselves and play and be part of it. Yeah. I think I answered all the questions, right? Yeah. Sure, please.
Government stated that a few years ago they would construct an administrative building for Portsmouth. I know the people of Portsmouth are waiting for that building. We've not seen signs of that administrative building. The administrative building would bring services closer to the people of the North. Any ideas whether that is still on the cards for your government? And yeah, and can you point to any health-related bills for the Parliament this year? And finally, you sent a message to Dr. Fontaine in Granford yesterday during the Mass. What role do you see Dr. Fontaine playing in a DLP government at this time?
You want them to give Fontaine more problems, boy, after you show up at church yesterday? The administrative building for Portsmouth and also the administrative building for the government ministries are still on the cards. Because as is in Portsmouth, we have government services dispersed all over Portsmouth, and nobody knows where most of these buildings are. Likewise in town, in Roseau. And so we have to, we need to address this. And again, this is where the private sector can come in. So the private sector who has money should come to us with a proposal and say, look, government, I heard you want to build a government headquarters. I can fund it. Can you give me a 30-year lease? And my interest rate is 6%. You understand? We're prepared to engage in those conversations. In many parts of the Caribbean, you have government occupying private sector properties with a long-term lease in place. You understand? And you can have a situation where lease to own. After 30 years, the government owns the building. You will have made your money, and you'll have made 6-7% over what you gave. You understand? So you come out good, and the government gets a service. So these are things that we're prepared to engage the private sector on. You know, so rather than putting the money in accounts in Miami, you know, let's have the money at National Bank there and give us a loan from there, so we can maintain those agreements. So that's one thing we can do. But the bigger problem I have, Curtis, is, and I mean, you guys spoke about Burkina Faso, and a lot of people talk about Burkina Faso. The problem you have in countries like Dominica and all Caribbean countries, and in such political systems, is that people want to be consulted, which is great, and is important as part of democracy. But you get a sense that consultation is about stymieing things, about preventing things from happening. It's not about advancing things. So you spend so much time talking and people disagreeing and that's one agreeing, and then when you move forward, They want to take the government to court for the project, to stop the project, to have an injunction on it and so on. And I mean, how are you going to build a country where you have to be spending so much time? You express your view. We run a country by consensus, except for election time. You want to make decisions by consensus. And then the majority of the particular, let's proceed. But so that's part of the challenge you have. And this is the conversation that's taking place in Africa, where people are looking now to Burkina Faso in these countries where you have military governments and things are happening in quick time that took governments 30, 40 years to do. And governments are saying, well, look, I mean, the guy doesn't have an election to contend with. He doesn't have all of his consultation to contend with that holds back things. And if you look at countries that are modern these days, and this is a conversation we have, and I'm not saying that we should have a system in Dominica, please, no. But this is a conversation that we have. People go to countries and they see, well, this country has this and that country has this, or Singapore, or Dubai, or Saudi Arabia. But these countries have good government systems where decision is truncated. And you go and the leader, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, he presents a plan to the country say, great, Your Highness, proceed. You understand? But here, if you build a house, you have to have consultations, where to build it, to this and that, and it takes you a long time. And that's why I said something ago, let's free me up a bit. And I think, if you were to ask me, I think we will be much more further than we are now, than if we had truncated all these consultations and people look at this thing not from a narrow perspective, but a broader perspective. You go to elections, you present a manifesto, the people vote on this, and here's the blueprint for developing the country. People have voted on it. And this is the frustration that President Trump has. This is why President Trump is going the route of executive orders. Because he has to go for the normal process. I mean, he will leave government 20 years later and it won't be done. And so this is a challenge that you have. Even, for example, with education reform. I've been talking about education reform for so long. For so long. But everybody wants to be consulted. And our children now are being affected by this as every single year. So I can tell you I'm going to bring the guillotine down on all these things, where you have all this thing of primary school children doing 13 subjects. That has to be something in the past. This is ridiculous. We have to go to the 4 or 5 subjects. English, math, social studies with some history in it, social science. That is the subjects. Music, dance, flute, guitar, art, sports. These are extracurricular activities where children have to be able to work together, play together, do things together. We're not building a culture of collaboration. We're not building a culture of cooperation. We're not building students with analytical skills and critical thinking and comprehension skills. And in an era of information, AI, a child doesn't have to remember anything, because you can go on your phone and get everything. You know what I'm saying? But when you have a little child carrying a bag that not even a father can carry, I mean, we have the children depressed. Even this issue of this national assessment, it has to be revamped. It has to be rethought. You understand? Because if every child has a space, why should when a child get to grade 5, the only thing we're teaching them is about common entrance, national assessment, and we forget that there are other things in the world to deal with? So, come September, we're going to do maths, we're going to do English language, we're going to do social studies with some science, some history in it, and we're going to do some little science and so on. So we focus on critical skills. This thing, yeah. This thing, we're gonna have, because you see, and then we have to let children go and do agriculture in school. Let children do carpentry at school, primary school. Let them do art. Let them do architectural drawing. Let us see who are the people who are inclined towards that ability, because the Bible tells you everybody has talent, you know. And in psychology, you have 7 different types of learners. So everybody is a linguistic learner, or everybody is a spatial learner. People have different learning skills. And how do we capture that person's natural talent? How do we capture what type of learner that person is? It cannot be done by examination, and it can't be done by only written examination, because a child may not be able to write an answer, but a child can explain himself. And how do we capture the child? And if we do more of our communication by talking, why aren't our exams more on oral examinations? When I taught at high school and colleges, no child could get an A unless you participated in the class, because 25% of your final grade was for class participation. And all kinds. You have to answer questions, you have impromptu speeches, you listen to news, you come and you talk about these things. So it's a conversation I'm going to have next month, June, and to come up to a thing where you go back to the basics. The world requires, the challenges now facing the world require us to go back to the basics in order for us to take advantage of the technological advancement taking place. But these exams and all this 14 subject and 12 subject, look at physical education. This is why we have a problem with sports in schools and athletics in schools, because we have now turned this of PE into a subject. And CXC has been hoodwinking all ministries of education, looking for money to support their program, and everything they turn into a subject at CXC. Now, there's no reason why a child should go and do music at secondary school. You'll end up being a musician at some point. But if you force the child to focus on exams, the child will not focus on natural talent, because people have aversions to certain strictures. So we have to start with this, and I believe that education has to be more focused on analytical skills, critical thinking, and some of the basic stuff. Because if a child can comprehend and analyze, the child can master anything. Master anything. And you give children enough time to be children. Go and play, go and exercise, go and play sports, play cricket, play football, play basketball, play rounders, play netball. Because we're the next generation of Lauren Barnes and my friend Nant and all these people coming from. If we have the children in a classroom for 5 hours. You see what I'm saying? So we have to go back to these things. So I'm not saying this alone will solve all our problems, but we have to start somewhere. And I believe education and the system has an important role to play in this. So I can tell you this has been weighing on me for a long time. And yes, we get 80% pass. Bravo. But where's the 20%? Where are they? Where are they least among us? Where are they? What life are they living? Because they didn't make it through. And is that because they're not smart, or because the system that we inherited is still the one we're imposing on children? And then exams, the children, exam time, or parents have the children depressed because everybody want to post what the children get and what the children get. And then because most of us do not have an appreciation for picking out children who are depressed and who are going for challenges, by the time we find out, it's too late. And the system should never be one contributing to that. A school must be a conducive place for learning. It mustn't be a burden. It mustn't be an imposition. And I'm not criticizing anybody. You know. I'm the Prime Minister of the country, so I take the full responsibility. So I'm not there passing the buck on anybody. That's not my style. Neither am I criticizing a teacher or any minister or any PS or any CEO. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a system that we've inherited that has not been examined in our entire lifetime, pre and post independence. And the world has changed dramatically. Where does AI fit in the school system today? And we cannot say it about technology by just giving a child a laptop. How does that fit in to learning? So it makes no sense and I see sometimes I see exams, I see tests, and most of them do have correct answers. Because we're into tricking children. We're into tricking children. We have an exam with tricking children. Which, and please, teachers, don't say scared. I mean, I'm still a teacher, you know, my friend. So I'm not criticizing you, please. I don't, because people like to jump on things and not pay attention to the substance of what I'm saying. Because everybody wants to make everything Skerrit says into a political issue. It's not a political issue. So I don't want anybody to say I'm attacking anybody, please. Just like I say 5 plus 5 is 55, everybody says Skerrit don't know maths, man. You know? You know what I'm saying? Not understanding that in quick time we'll get to 55. That's the point I'm making. But for some idiot to figure Skerrit doesn't know 5 plus 5. Come on, man. We're too cynical in our views. We're too childish in our engagement. Let's elevate, and that's that, because you see, comrade, that's a product of the system. It doesn't give us an opportunity to analyze things, to have an intellectual conversation, to be critical in our views. Because, you know, we are a society of what people say and repeat what people say. And we're on social media for likes and all these things, and everybody reads comments at bad English and so on, and that's what you focus on. So we have to, the thing is a shock for us to make a change. And I don't think another school day should come where we place children in depressing situation. And if we lose that opportunity, we're going to lose a generation. Trust me on this. Trust me on this. And I say so with the greatest sense of emotion, the greatest sense of concern, that I have a responsibility, because the box stop is me, that I'm going to have this thing effective in September. That all the other stuff will be extracurricular activities. But let's focus on let children read properly. Let children be able to do maths properly. Let people to understand who they are and social studies, and go and do civics. Go to the rivers and go. Don't put a peas in a tissue paper and wet it. Go and plant the peas and harvest it. And if you don't have space, let's build a greenhouse, a small greenhouse, so you can plant it in the stuff. Let's do hydroponics. Let's teach people this stuff. Animal husbandry. Too many children do not know in Dominica what's the difference between a plantain and a banana. Let children go to the grotto and take care, make the beds of the senior citizens. Feed them. Play games with them, because many children grow up with no grandparents. So they have no understanding of how to treat a senior citizen. You understand? And
if your plan PM were to materialize by September, what impact will that have on all the teachers?
it's not going to change. We're not going to replace anybody, because there's work for everybody to be done. So there's work because you have extracurricular activities. You understand? So I'm not saying get rid of music. No, don't get me wrong. We'll keep it. But it has to be a situation where we can build a school choir. We can build a school band. We can build a cultural group. You understand what I'm saying? That's the idea. So children do things collaboratively. People do things together. Now, understand, I'm sorry for going for so long, because this requires another time. I try to, I've been told I give to be long responses to questions. So I try to keep it, but some things I believe need to be explained properly. You know, so we have to. Now, this is a natural phenomenon when you get development, that we become less of a society. We all individuals. We drive, all of us have a car, so nobody gives somebody a ride anymore. We leave work, we jump in our car. We drive in our garage. We jump in through our kitchen door, right? We all have an 85-inch screen TV at our home, or 75 or 60, or I don't know, 48, whatever it is. We have channels that we don't know what to do with. We have Netflix, we have YouTube channels, we have all sorts of things that we can watch and non-stop. You know what I'm saying? Back in the days, you go by your neighbor and watch TV. Everybody has their own TV. So the issue of community is no longer there. This is why you have issues. You have problem with garbage collection. This is why you have a problem with community activities, because we're all individuals. And we have to, this is why I'm saying, we have to go back to the basics. The basics of life. Where we can grow our own food, and do our own little back stuff, be more in the community, socialize more, look out for each other. You understand? And get out of the comfort of our homes. And go and see what our neighbor did and died 2 weeks ago and we didn't know. And it's not a criticism of people. I'm not saying this. I'm just telling us, because I'm not lecturing anybody. I don't want anybody to think that Skerrit lecturing anybody. I'm just sharing my views as a citizen of the country and as Prime Minister. Now, people may not agree with my views at all. That's fine. There's someone who agree with it. It's okay. But I want the record to show where I am in my thinking. You understand? Where am I in my thinking? Because if we're to take advantage of what's happening in the country, with the airport, the marina, with geothermal, with the cable car, the infrastructure that we're bringing in there, the expansion of the healthcare services, we're going to need a lot of people to run these places with different skills. And not only academic skills, technical skills. They must have basic concept. They need to have advanced knowledge of certain things. And the system that we have now, education, is not going to produce for you to the extent that you're going to have them produce to you. Because our exams are mainly academically driven. You understand what I'm saying? And so every child must be exposed to technical. It's not to say, well, watch a child and say, well, that child come from this home, then put them in technical stuff. No. You have to be able to do so by diagnostic testing, by practical things. You understand? When I taught at school, I give children an assignment for the first day of school to be able to diagnose their abilities. So I give you an assignment, fresh out come from your home. And out of that, I can know what challenges people have, and you help them in the areas where you know that they have a challenge, so they can become more holistic children. You understand? So in my English class, we did history, we did geography, we did maths. Not the 5 + 5 = 55, but we did real maths. You know. We do all those things. Because I always told students, nobody's going to ask you to write a 600-word essay when you go out in the public. The boss man is going to ask you to, look, we have a presentation to make, go and represent the company. What are you going to say? You're going to be sweating and trembling? No, you have to have self-confidence. You have to be able to speak. Anyway, so we'll have a symposium on this, and I'm hoping that the Minister of Finance will be able to articulate those positions in his budget address. I'm not part of the consultation, you know. You know, so we'll have a consultation symposium in June. We can bring in people and have a fair and honest conversation about these matters. These matters. But I am saying that time is not on our side. And then we can spend the same amount of money or less money and achieve more. More results, better results. Every child can be placed where his talent is and hone that talent, enhance that talent, so that child can become a productive citizen in Dominica, because the child is doing what the Lord has given to him, the gift. He's given opportunity to manifest it. Yeah. So these are some of my everyday personal reflections on some of the things. Yes, Kala, you have questions?
Well, someone's asking, I know we run out of time quickly, but the investment in Dutsi, what is the latest in that? I think I asked that some time ago, and Dutsi is becoming a burning issue.
I don't respond to this. It's a long-standing matter. So yeah, we can. I know there are some issues there back then and so on. But on the final issue of Dr. Fountain and what place in it, I mean, you have seen me in action as the leader of the Labour Party and Prime Minister. Always prepared to engage anybody who's prepared to put the country first. I did not come into politics with any history of political engagement in the forefront of politics. My family was supporting the party, but not on a political platform or anything. So I came here to make a contribution. I've always said that we do not have all of the resources within Labour to do what we have to do, that we're prepared to engage. And that position has manifested itself with the inclusion of many people who were dead against Roosevelt Skerrit and dead against Labour. But I always say to our party that this thing is not about me or about us, it's about the country. And anybody who says that he or she has a talent, a skill, and if you were to put it at the disposal of the country, we prefer to engage. But you must first put the country first. You understand? And you must do that with seriousness. I mean, we brought in the deputy leader of the United Party into Labour and into the cabinet. We brought in the leader of the Freedom Party into Labour, into the cabinet. And you have seen a number of very strong anti-Labour activists who have come join the party and who are engaged. Sometimes even within my own party, people say that I'm closer to these people than I'm to them. So, I mean, I'll get my blows in Labour too, everybody may get serious blows, sometimes, but all through love and so on. And because we have democracy in there. So, I'm prepared to do this thing. And because we have to move away from this appearance of political tribalism or division, and we waste money, we waste time engaging ourselves and fighting each other. For what? It's not going to benefit us. It's not going to benefit anybody. This country is too small, and there are too many challenges that we have to deal with that are external to us but affecting us dramatically. That we should join our forces in unison. Climate change, the challenge that we face on the CBI programs, in the CNCDs, education system. So there are a lot of things that we have to work together on, and I'm prepared to engage anybody. This is not my country. We play our part. We do what we have to do. But anybody who's prepared to play. And I'm shall give arrest. Political arrest.
But does he have the talent that we need? Does he have the talent to be?
I will have to examine it now after so many years. It doesn't have to be whether there's not talent or not, or where, what position. I don't think a consideration of position should be a precondition or a preconsideration. It's about contribution. And you don't have to be the brightest person or the dauntingest person in the world to make a contribution. Everybody has a view. And if in a conversation that one can contribute to the conversation and you can enhance it, then that's great. So it doesn't have to be what position, whether it's a minister or ambassador or director of this, director of that. The positions are not a necessary consideration. It's about where we are as a country, what we need to do as a country, and whether the present construct that we have is helping the country. And if you say you have a talent, the question you have to ask yourself is, what are you going to do with that talent? Because the reality is, it appears from all vantage points, including what the European people are saying, that Labour is going to be in office for a very long time. And so, if Labour is going to be the government, then do you want to be outside and not come to the center to make a contribution? You understand? And so we're open to anybody. So people have my number. They can reach out to me, and we'll tell you I am not who they have tried to paint me as. I have come into this politics, and I have dedicated all my life to the service of Dominica. 25 years in Parliament, plus 7 years as a school teacher. I'm just 52 years. And I've done nothing else in that 25 years. Nothing else, except to be at the service of the people of Dominica. Nothing else. Every single day, dedicated myself to this country. Nothing else. And so, I have no axe to grind with anybody. And if there's anybody in this country who should be bitter, it's me. But I'm not bitter. Because I've been subjected to the most things. But I'm not bitter. I don't hold no malice towards anybody or ill will towards anybody, including my persecutors. Because I always say my faith is not in the hands of man, my faith is in the hands of God. And of course, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. The Lord promised me that. So, so we engage. Let's build a national movement for national development, where we all can sit around the table with mutual respect and mutual trust. And I see the member Marigot there. That's also extended to him. You know, he could come back home. You understand? Because every one of us in this country has a foundation in labor. You understand? We'll see. So let's engage, and any ideas people have, they can send it to us. I'm sure they have access to the ministers and to the members of parliament. The health bill. I believe there are 1 or 2 bills that are still outstanding in the Ministry of Health. As you know, the Ministry of Health has a number of bills that we put in forward. I think there is the medical professional bill is out, and the nursing and pharmacy bills, all of which are ready. They may not. I don't think they may go before the budget, so maybe in the summertime, because I believe before the budget we go to pass the legislation dealing with the what's the bill called? The permanent reserve. So we're going to Parliament to pass this maybe in mid-June thereabout, before we prorogue Parliament, so that we can transform policy into legislation and to protect the whales, because the whales lend an important opportunity for us from an economic standpoint. But we have to be careful that we don't overdo it. We have to manage it properly. So we must not go and rush the whales. The next thing, the whales will leave us permanently. And so the legislation is going to help to put some structure in place and governance structure in place, and so that we don't have people rushing into their boats and jamming each other and trying to get to the whales first and so on. This has to stop, because otherwise our rush to making money will cause us to lose everything. You understand? Because swimming in the whales is becoming a major issue. But it can be for everybody. You have to have money to go and swim in whales in Dominica. So all of these things are going to be addressed in terms of how much it's going to cost someone to be able to swim with the whales. I mean, it's not vola you're swimming with, my brother. If you want to swim in this thing, where you're going to swim with vola and Kong and this thing, but you're going to swim with whales. You have to pay big money for that. You can't come from all the and swim with whales for free. No, man, you have to pay money for that. So this thing is going to be dramatically increased, so that it become a VVVVVVIP and protected, and I know there's some dissonance as to where the funds will go. I believe that a special fund should be created. So a special fund will be created. So we have to amend the draft. A special fund must be created, and those monies going in there to protect the marine reserve, marine species, and to ensure that communities where we have marine reserve, like Scott said and so on, can benefit from this to sustain their livelihoods in times when they have difficulty in catching fish. So all these things that we have to look at, and of course we'll use some of it to promote the country, to market Dominica. And so a special trust fund will be created, and all the revenues for whale watching purposes will go into that fund to be reinvested in protecting the marine reserves and marine species in Dominica, and also helping the fisher people in the communities where those facilities are resident. Okay, so we'll take note of that and just change. That's one amendment I have for the bill. So. But thank you very much. Sorry for speaking for so long. You know, but I think the questions that you asked provoked some of my own reflections. I couldn't miss the opportunity to share those with you. But certainly, I look forward to engaging with you. I thank you for your questions, and I hope I was able to answer your questions. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thanks, everyone, for coming. Prime Minister, thank you for your extensive commentary this morning. We will keep you updated on that press conference from the Ministry of Sports and Culture. We look forward to continuing our engagement with the media and with the public. Thank you, everyone.